Matthew 25 can be divided into three sections: the parable of the 10 virgins, verses 1 through 13, the parable of the talents, verses 14 through 30, and the sheep and the goats, verses 31 through 46. The first parable is a story about 10 young women taking their lamps to meet the bridegroom for a nighttime wedding. 5 of them brought oil and were able to go into the wedding banquet with the door shutting behind them. Now the other 5 forgot oil, and while they were off buying more, the doors shut on them and they were told that they could not come in. The man said that he did not know them. Now the second parable is about a master's servants. He gave each of them different amounts of precious metals. One servant received the weight of 5 talents. He went out and invested his wealth to produce 5 more talents of silver or gold. The second servant received 2 talents and was able to produce 2 more. The last servant got 1 talent and was frightened. So what did he do? He buried and hid that single talent. So he did not produce any more than he started out with. The last servant was obviously fired. The 1 talent he had been given to invest in was taken away from him because he did not multiply what was given to him. Basically, this story teaches us that God gives us the tools to go out and to be fruitful. But it's up to us to take those tools and then go out and multiply with what He has given to us. The next section is the parable of the sheep and the goats. It is a story with a shepherd separating the sheep from the goats, just like God will separate the righteous from the non-righteous. The righteous, on the right, will have served Christ through serving others. And because of this, they will be allowed into the kingdom of heaven. Now, those who are not righteous on the left will have not served Christ through serving others. They will not be able to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Though all of these stories seem to be very different in nature, all in fact reflect on the same generalized theme: how to live in eternity with Christ. Or, in other words, Matthew 25 can be summed up by our friends from DC Talk with their 90s rendition of the song, "I Wish We'd All Been Ready." The chorus, you may know it, goes a little like this: "There's no time to change your mind. The sun has come and you've been left behind." That is the exact sentiment that we see in the 3 parables in Matthew chapter 25, each offering their own perspective or directive. But I especially love that the first 2 parables are parallel to one another. The story of the virgins calls on the church to watch, and the story of the talents calls on the church to work. You see, vigilance is the focus of the first parable, and diligence is the focus of the second. Also, in the parable of the 10 virgins, we see clearly, and we know that Christ is coming back for His church. And what are we called to do? We're called to wait with anticipation, ready for His return. However, I think sometimes in our waiting, just like the ladies in this parable, we can sometimes become a little selfish, lazy, and distracted, which is why the parable of the talents follow. Again, we're called to wait, but in our waiting, work. Work with the gifts and the abilities that God has given each and every one of us. Our talents are gifts that come in many forms and fashions. You may have the gift of speaking, writing, singing, or even working with your hands. Whatever it may be, it belongs to God, and we have been entrusted with them for a singular purpose: to bring about His glory. So the question I leave you with today is this: what is it that God has entrusted you with? In your waiting, in our waiting, what is it that God has given you to display His glory? What tools are you utilizing to share the gospel, to build His kingdom? Maybe you have even yet to discover your gifts. You may even think to yourself that your gifts are too small and insignificant. Listen, take a lesson from the third worker. Don't hide it. Let the glory of God shine through you with what He has entrusted you with. Now, as we wait with vigilance, let us work with diligence.